did want to mention that, we didn't talk about this last week. We've talked about the price of oil and energy independence is a big part of the American politicians' platform. There has been a massive new find. I don't know how many people know this, of oil and natural gas in Texas and New Mexico. In fact, the federal government proclaims it the largest continuous oil and gas resource potential ever assessed. When they do these digital assessments and geological assessments, Christmas came a few weeks early. Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke said of the new reserve, which is believed to have enough energy under the ground to fuel the entire U.S. economy for 7 years. Most of our energy in the United States, most oil and natural gas, is in the Permian Basin. It's an area, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico. They found 46 parts, an estimate. Nobody knows exactly how much, but some of the research and some of the studies that have been done from the USGS Energy Program. And once again, this is in the Permian Basin, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Some of it's in what they call, I don't know why they call it, but they call it the Delaware Basin in the state of New Mexico. But they're estimating that it has 46.3 billion barrels of oil, 281 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Let me say that again. 46.3 billion barrels of oil, 281 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. That is the largest continuous energy assessment ever done in the United States. So take that, Saudi Arabia and OPEC and the cartel you've run for so long. Red, we've always had an abundance of oil and natural gas. We've just never been aggressive in exploring. When I read how many trillions of cubic feet of natural gas there were, it led me down the road of something we discussed late yesterday afternoon, and I got challenged on it. I said, there's no way. I went to an office of a friend of mine yesterday. He said, you're wrong. Can't be that. You can't be right about a billion and a trillion seconds. I went back and found an article that I'd read probably 4 or 5, maybe 10 years ago about, it's a New York Times article. In fact, it's so old that I had to download it in a digital format. When you Google the article, it comes up like a paste and copy, like somebody took a picture of a newspaper, and they've got it reprinted via a digital version and print archive. But it's an interesting story because yesterday I told Rev, I said, Rev, how long ago was let's do this again.
Yeah. Because I actually told this a couple of times.
And nobody believes it. Okay. 1,000 seconds ago equals about 17 minutes. Think of that now. 1,000 seconds ago is about 17 minutes ago. 1,000,000 seconds ago is about 12 days. Just kind of get your head around about 1,000 seconds, 17 minutes, 1,000,000 seconds, 12 days ago. 1 billion seconds is 31.7 years ago. I mean, think of that. 1,000,000 seconds is only 12 days ago. 1 billion seconds is 31.7 years ago. 1 trillion seconds is 31,709.8 years. We owe somewhere in the neighborhood of $31 trillion in federal debt. That puts it in
22.
perspective. I mean, that positions the argument in a way that most of us can understand. 1 trillion seconds ago, there was no written history. The pyramids had not yet been built. It would be 10,000 years later before cave paintings in France were discovered. The saber-toothed tiger, we believe, was still prowling around the planet. So that's 1 trillion seconds, and we owe somewhere in the neighborhood, depending on what account you believe, $21 to $22 trillion in federal debt. It's hard for us to fathom $21 trillion or $22 trillion. I think that illustrates it in a very understandable way. And I was debating a couple of friends of mine yesterday. We're not going to pay that money back. I mean, when you think about it like that, I mean, think of that, Rev, 1 trillion seconds. If someone were to offer you $1 trillion and all you had to do was write a check on every dollar, there's no way you could accept the $1 trillion. You probably couldn't do it on $1 billion because you couldn't put a check on a dollar bill every second. So it would take you, for $1 billion, it would take you 31.7 if you did one per second. Let's say it took 2 seconds to do one, it'd be 63 years. I mean, who's going to spend their life signing dollar or checking dollar bills just so they can keep them? And I just thought that really illustrated the difference. I mean, you've heard me, and you and I play this game, a trillion is 1,000 billion and a billion is 1,000 million. I don't think we can get our arms around how much money $1 trillion is. And we have a federal deficit, a federal debt of about 21 to 22 trillion. And 1 trillion seconds ago, the pyramids were not even constructed. 31,709.8 years ago. And I got challenged. Somebody said, that can't be right. I mean, if 1 million seconds is only 12 days ago, 1 billion can't be 31 years ago, and 1 trillion can't be 31,000. Well, that's the enormity of 1 trillion. I mean, it's incomprehensible. We think we can understand 1 trillion. We can't. You know, I find this very interesting. Bill Gates is worth how many billion? Or Bezos is worth 50 billion?
Yeah, 60, 70, somewhere.
So in theory, let's use Bezos. He's the newest, richest man on the planet. He could spend $1 a second for the next 31.7 years and only spend $1 billion of the 35 or 40 billion he's supposed to be worth. Now, I understand he doesn't have money. He doesn't have cash piled up in the bank in the amount of 30 or 40 or 50 bill, whatever the number is. I don't have any idea what that number is. But I was just thinking about, man, he could spend $1 a second for 31 years and only spend $1 billion of his dollars.